It's a beautiful spring morning. It's going to get to about 26 degrees Celsius today. Listen to the birds. The birds seem to be chirping extra loud. I'm looking out here from my veranda. They're chirping extra loud because we've had so much rain. It just seems to be after the rain. It's almost like they have a little celebration. Perhaps because all the little grubs come a little bit higher to the surface. There's extra food on the go. For being such a beautifully mild morning, and all the ground is all nice and moist, and it's going to have a little bit of warmth to the day. It's a perfect day to get some seedlings in the ground, to get some of these things that I've started in. Some things that I thought were never going to pop up, and then all of a sudden they've all popped up. So I've got these sunflowers. I really want to get these sunflowers in somewhere, but I'm going to give them a little bit more time, I think, because I planted sunflowers direct in the garden. They all got taken out by birds. So I've tried again. We're late for sunflowers, but I really want them. So I've tried again, and what I need to do is to put them in the ground and cover them with something so the birds can't dig them up. So they were all across that back fence line. I was going to have this beautiful row of sunflowers, and they just keep digging in that mulch. They just love it. It's fresh mulch, and there's lots of little bugs in it that are working their way to decompose that mulch, but in the meantime it just draws the blackbirds and all the birds that seem to dig up big holes in the mulch. So I think what I'll do is I'll start some more seeds, and I'll have another go at planting them direct, but I'll cover that. I'm not sure what I'll cover it with, because I'm working with supplies that are limited and what I've got, but it needs to be safe for the birds too. But I'll see what I can muster up and perhaps try and get some going. The little seedlings that I started on the veranda in this polystyrene box, which was a bit of an experiment of composting in place and seeing what would grow on top of compost. All of these are going well, but you can see this is overcrowded now. I've used it as a starter box to start growing seedlings, and I've got 3 butternut squash here growing quite happily in there, so I need to move them into the garden too. And this one is a tromboncino, so I'm actually going to see if I can grow this in this box and let it come up and grow over the balcony and see if that will work. In general, I'm not a container grower. I have a history before I started doing my backyard into creating this edible food forest. I was known to be a bad mother of pot plants. I would kill them. These days, because it's a daily thing for me, oh, my cantaloupes up, yay! There we go, praise God. Because they need to be hand watered so much, and it's they're quite high maintenance. They are inclined to die on me, but I seem to have got over that hurdle mostly. Some things just didn't do well, but I just want to show you this container. This is a really deep container, which I thought would be amazing as a pot plant on my veranda, and I think I originally tried to grow a fern in it. It's had all sorts of things in it, but because it's so deep, and it is full of soil, mind you, which is a ridiculous amount of soil to be in that pot, because most things will only grow to about that deep, and so you've got all this wasted space. But not only that, I water and water and water this thing. The water goes down there and it doesn't tend to wick up enough to service the top. So you're using a lot of water all the time and having to retop the top layer of water. So I would not recommend a huge deep, like it's really deep. It's probably about, I don't know, about 800 millimeters high. I would not recommend using a pot like that deep. It's just crazy. So whereas these things, I've got this sitting here, which is not a permanent feature, mind you. It composted down because it was an experiment with composting in place in tubs. It's decomposed down nicely, but it's only about maybe 3.5, 4 inches deep, and yet things are growing really well. Now this carrot doesn't have a chance. There's no way that's deep enough for that carrot, but you know, things will grow in that as better, easier, because you can water that than that. Gardens are very individual, and so what works for me may not work for you, vice versa. So you've got to kind of try, it's trial and error, and you've got to try things, and you've also got to work out what works for you life-wise. My life is very lifey. Lots of things always going on that take a lot of mental attention, and so the garden, I've enjoyed experimenting and growing lots of different things, but the garden still needs to be simple for me to a degree. It still needs to be something that doesn't take up, it's pleasurable, it's stimulating mentally, but it's not an overload. So I look for ways to make things easier, and you've got to get away from picture perfect. You can't, if you think picture perfect for Instagram perfect for a garden, you're setting yourself up for more work than is enjoyable, in my opinion. So particularly depending on how big it is, you know, the bigger it is, the more work is involved, and you want to make it as simple as possible. I've got lots of things like this bucket that's on my veranda, and sometimes I put vegetation offcuts when I'm working on the veranda in here, and occasionally I'll throw the coffee grounds from the kitchen and that in there. I'll let that rot down a bit, and then, like I said, I'm sometimes putting it in containers and putting soil over the top, planting to that, and basically making compost in place situation rather than taking it down to the compost. So which we still do, but our main compost bin gets used for the chicken house usually. So we're composting down all the sawdust and the chicken poo, and the garden waste that's, you know, bigger and chunkier, that I just wouldn't chop and drop on top of my garden, things like that. So that's the other thing, chop and drop, or using leaves, you know, little leaves that go yellow, and just using them in place. You're kind of composting in place. These are cuttings, so this is going to go yellow a bit. These are gooseberry cuttings that I've put in there. I bought this gooseberry and it had lots of leggy bits off the side, so I've trimmed them back and just put the cuttings in there. So I'm hoping for another 4 gooseberries off this one gooseberry plant. But yeah, yellowing leaves and that I kind of nip off and compost in place, because I figure the plant itself has drawn to itself the nutrients it needs, and so therefore dropping it down where the plant was can help. In saying that, you've just got to watch slugs and snails. So some situations create situations for slugs and snails. So even this lettuce is going to seed, and I want the seed head off this one. But as the leaves are dying back, I'm taking them off and either putting them in there or putting them in that bucket. I also have these little things around the place. They're only very small watering cans, and particularly up top, I don't have a tap up top on my veranda, and because I've got a lot of things to water sometimes there's only a few things there, sometimes there's a bit. What I do is I take a couple of these inside, I fill them up with the town water, and then I take them out and let them sit overnight so they kind of gas off, and so my plants are getting more like rainwater. Not exactly, but at least the chlorine gases off and they're getting better water. So I just leave them on the veranda, nice and untidy. And I've got these projects here, I call these projects, dotted around my veranda. It's become a bit of a workstation. As the weather's finally up now, it'll need to be cleared up because we'll end up having barbecues and things out here more often. But at the moment, we've got to-do lists in the form of things sitting on the veranda. The other thing I find I'm doing a bit more often too is we do collect a lot of scraps in the kitchen, mainly whatever the chooks can eat, I give to the chooks. And what they can't eat, I'll give to the worms. And then I take from the worms sometimes and put it into the garden when they don't need quite so much. So intermittently, I might put in the garden. And what I do is I'll like I've done this yesterday, I dug a hole in there and put the scraps in there. I did actually cover it with a bit of potting mix, and I've had a blackbird in here that just scattered it back off. So I've put this pot over it now. Just this morning I saw that and I'll put that. I will bury that bit of paper, but in my little compost bin that we collect the coffee grounds, I do put, receipts or, a napkin or anything like that. I put carbon loaded food in there, toilet rolls, things like that, in amongst the food scraps and the coffee grounds, because the worms need that, so it balances that out for them. So that's why there's paper in it. And in this container is an example of a little compost bin within the container. So this is a pot with fairly decent sized holes in the bottom of it. You can't even break the bottom of the pot, and it's sunk into the soil it's probably in there about an inch, and then I put plant matter and anything that you might compost in there. And when I water this, I often water that and let that seep into the container via its little compost bin. So when I say that, I don't mean it's not okay to aim for a beautiful garden, because ultimately that's what. Oh, hello, hoverfly. You're just hovering in front of me. Can you see that? It's about a foot away from my face, just hovering there. What I'm saying is, we all want a beautiful garden and can appreciate, beautiful flowers and a beautiful setting. But in my situation, I started the garden so I can eat, so we can have food on the table in the economical situation that we're in, and so that we can have healthy food and be feeding our bodies in we're in a climate where we need to be healthy. So I'm going to use dog hair in my garden to keep snails off. I'm going to use scrap wire, because that's what I've got, to stop animals digging up my potatoes. I'm going to have random bits of cage or wire to stop birds digging out my seedlings, and compost bins, weed tea. And that chair is there so my grandson can collect the eggs easy and safely. And what else have we got? Show Poppy what you got. Poppy, check this out, Pop. Check it out.
What's that all about?
Lift up your top. Show Poppy. Lift up your t-shirt.
That's pretty cool.
That's his gardening gloves, like Nana. See? And right now, I don't have the mulch and the supplies to stop this grass, and it's invading this space at the back. So I've just thrown the some dynamic lifter that I had, some bags of stuff that I had that are suppressing the weeds just and blocking that off, like it's creating a dam to the weeds coming in, because that's what I've got to do right now. And my grass is not pretty right now, but it's full of clover, and the bees, which you can't see right now because they'll come out when it's a little bit sunnier. The bees are feeding off this clover. But also, I've got a child in hospital who's just got out of ICU, and my husband would normally take care of this and he can't right now. And we've got other things around the garden that I'm blocking off the doorway to stop the birds at the moment. Other bits and pieces, a bit of wire over the young berries, because when we moved this cage, the young berries had to be draped over a shed, and I haven't been able to put them back up again because I just don't have the trellising. But despite all that, we're making progress. Plants are going in, seeds are going in, and food is growing. So that's the way I look at it. You just do what you can with what you've got, when you can, and gradually, bit by bit, you create more and more food. And that's our goal, to create more and more food, and healthy food, chemical-free food. And, if you grow food yourself, you can grow vitamins and minerals that you just can't get in the shop. It's as simple as that. I can't buy pine berries in the shop. I rarely see anything as fresh, or you don't see anything as fresh as straight off the bush. And often things are picked underripe, and you're picking them ripe after the plants had the chance to put every nutrient into the actual fruit. You also get to try different things that you may never have tried before. I've never tried elderberry, and I've got elderberries growing now. And a garden will so readily multiply and give back. You can plant one thing, drops its seeds, and you get all its little babies coming back. And that's a gardener gardening on your behalf without you doing anything. I can't buy yellow raspberries in the store, or most of the tomato varieties that I'm growing. And I certainly don't like paying a fortune for lemons when they grow in such abundance and so easily here. So don't feel bad if your garden doesn't look picture perfect with the deep dark soil. Here I'm using recycled paper, like I've gone through and decluttered my paperwork, shredded it up and put it on the garden as a mulch. But it serves its purpose. Eventually it will turn to nice, deep, dark black soil. But right now it's looking ugly. But the plants don't mind. They don't care about ugly. They just care about what's feeding them. And looking at the lushness of my garden in such a very short time. Like seriously, I haven't been growing for very long. And things are just doing so well. Tells me that you can do it any which way. You just got to feed that soil, use what you can, when you can, and you don't have to have the best of everything. You don't have to have all the amendments that they say. You just need to cover the soil, like get the mulch down, make sure there's an adequate water, and pretty much that does most of the job. And if you don't use chemicals and you grow a few things that the birds absolutely love, like this salvia, that the wattle birds just absolutely love, then the birds come in, eat the bugs. You're waiting for treats. Excuse me, can you eat the grass? Not the kale? You got chickens. You can just grow stuff that just keeps growing. This is walking stick kale, which is pretty much tree collards, I think, in the US. I just keep busting off leaves. Even if the caterpillars get to it, I just bust off leaves and give it to my chickens. I absolutely love it. There's just ongoing fresh food for them too, as well as we use really, really good chicken feed for them. But They just love the treats out of the garden because I'm able to grow, just let this stuff grow. Oh, the sun's coming out. So I got on a bit of a tangent, but because I just really want to encourage those out there that haven't started yet, or, a bit discouraged reading all the forums where they've got to do 100 different things to have a perfect plant, and they're worried about every pest and that. Don't use chemicals, and just let all the bug life and the birds move in. You've got to control some things, you've got to keep on top of some things or you'll lose a lot of plants. But pretty much your garden can start to look after itself. Look, I started with nothing. I started with a weed infested backyard, few seeds, did what I could with what I had, free mulch, and tried to just resource what I could for free or very cheap. And I've got a lot of food growing here now. Like last year I was pretty happy with what we grew in the spring, summer. This year I'm really looking forward to showing you what we get out of here in the summer this year. But it doesn't matter what scale you're on. What matters is if you actually get something in and get it growing and start understanding plants and the way they respond to your backyard or your pot or that corner of your yard or your land or under that tree. Like, just start to play and experiment and break the rules. I've broken so many rules, and I've gone by gut intuition. Watched the way the plants respond in certain situations, thought, oh, nothing was meant to grow under that tree, and here I have got Cape gooseberries under there and mint and in a pot and oh, okay, so things do grow under that tree. You need to be watching your own plants and seeing how they respond to what you're doing and grow from there. And you can grow. And you can grow well. You'll lose, and every gardener loses plants. You do not see a lot of the mess on the YouTube channels and that. You see the pristine parts of people's garden. You don't see the mess often, and you don't see the fails or the dead plants or the dead seedlings. You often don't see any of that. We all get them. We all get a percentage of them, but the more you put in, the more you're eating. So I hope that blesses you and encourages you. Thanks for watching this video. All my videos are very different to each other, so have a look through, and I just thank you if you're supporting my channel, liking, subscribing, sharing, all that sort of stuff. I really appreciate you, and it encourages me to, spend the energy in my very lifey life and share a bit more with you. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Okay, let's collect some berries and some eggs. Make sure nobody's in there. Oh, we're good. They're usually finished by about 10 o'clock, so I'll watch the time now. I'm usually safe to come in by 10 o'clock and collect these beautiful eggs. Thank you, my girls. You're very good girls, except for the one that's eating one. I don't think we've got any there today. One of them's, I think, pecking at one, at the egg. Oh, some of you are probably saying, why aren't the chooks eating that grass? Well, at the moment we've got little baby seedlings, so they're in at the moment. I do cut it and feed it to them every morning, but cut it by hand and feed them some. Thank you for the eggs, girls. Here's a few extra treats. I'll be back later. Put some more water out for you. There you go. Thank you for eating my slugs and snails. Oh, I think he's asleep. Sleep in the sun. raspberry. Yum, yum. Yum, yum. Yeah, I've got another one. Here, you want another one? There you go. Yeah, trust factor not too bad, but let's grab a berry and go. This is your house. You can stay there. I'll go away now.